The entity, the demonic force from It Follows. In the 2014 horror film, directed by David Robert Mitchell, a supernatural entity stalks victims after they engage in sexual contact with someone who's already cursed. The entity appears as different people, sometimes strangers, and sometimes taking the form of loved ones to psychologically torment its target. Only the cursed person can see it. The creature walks at a steady pace, but never stops, never sleeps, and never gives up. It will follow you across the country, across the ocean, to the ends of the earth. If you're in a car, it walks. If you fly to another continent, it walks through airports and boards planes as an invisible passenger. The entity can hurt and kill anyone who gets in its way, even those who can't see it. If it touches you, you die in brutal fashion. The only escape is passing the curse to someone else through sex, but even that's temporary. If the entity kills the new victim, it returns to hunting you. The film implies an endless chain of victims stretching back decades or centuries. Director David Robert Mitchell confirmed in interviews that the entity cannot be reasoned with, cannot be fought, and has no origin story. It simply exists as an unstoppable force of death. You can run, but you'll eventually get tired. It won't. Death itself. The unseen antagonist of the Final Destination franchise. Beginning with the 2000 film directed by James Wong, the series follows people who escape mass casualty events after one person receives a premonition. A group avoids a plane explosion, a highway pileup, a roller coaster disaster, a bridge collapse, or a racetrack accident. But death doesn't appreciate being cheated. The survivors die one by one in elaborate accidents that appear coincidental but are clearly orchestrated by an invisible intelligence. A loose wire causes a leak that creates a spark that ignites gas that triggers an explosion. A gust of wind blows a ladder that startles a worker who drops a plank that falls on a lever that releases a cable. The franchise spans 5 films from 2000 to 2011, and across all of them, nobody survives permanently. Even characters who make it through one film die in the next. Tony Todd's character, William Bloodworth, explains that death has a design, and new life can defeat new death, but the rules are inconsistent and seemingly arbitrary. You cannot fight something without physical form. You cannot hide from something that controls physics itself. You cannot negotiate with the fundamental force that ends all living things. Some victims try to kill themselves on their own terms, but death intervenes and forces them to die according to its design anyway. The premonitions aren't gifts. They're cruel reminders that death is toying with you before collecting what it's owed. Sadako Yamamura, the vengeful ghost from Ringu. The 1998 Japanese horror film, directed by Hideo Nakata, introduced Western audiences to a new kind of terror. Sadako Yamamura was a young woman with supernatural psychic abilities who was murdered and thrown into a well. Her rage and psychic power created a curse that manifests as a videotape. Anyone who watches the tape receives a phone call telling them they'll die in 7 days. Exactly 1 week later, Sadako emerges from any nearby television screen, her appearance a nightmarish vision of long black hair covering her face, broken fingernails, and a white burial dress. She crawls out of the TV in an unnatural jerking motion, and when she reaches her victim, she kills them through psychic shock so intense their faces contort in frozen terror. The original film reveals that copying the tape and showing it to someone else extends your life by 7 days, but this just condemns another person to death. You cannot destroy the tape. Burning it or breaking it accomplishes nothing. The curse reproduces itself. Even attempting to give Sadako's body a proper burial doesn't stop her. The 2022 film, Sadako DX, confirms that after decades, hundreds of copies of the cursed video exist across the internet. Sadako's curse has gone digital, spread through social media, and infected countless victims worldwide. Film scholar Colette Balmain wrote in Japanese horror film and its transnational legacy that Sadako represents technology's invasion of domestic space and revenge that cannot be satisfied. You can delay death temporarily, but the curse is eternal. The Xenomorph, the perfect organism from Alien. In Ridley Scott's 1979 science fiction horror masterpiece, the crew of the commercial starship Nostromo encounters an alien life form that Ash, the ship's science officer, describes as a survivor unclouded by conscience, remorse, or delusions of morality. The Xenomorph's life cycle ensures you're dead even if you survive the initial encounter. A facehugger attaches to your head, rendering you unconscious while it implants an embryo down your throat. The chestburster erupts from your torso hours or days later, killing you instantly. The creature then matures into an 8-foot-tall biomechanical killing machine. Its exoskeleton is harder than steel. It has two sets of jaws, including an inner pharyngeal jaw that shoots out to pierce skulls, and its blood is molecular acid that eats through multiple decks of Starship hull. The alien can survive in vacuum, extreme heat, and extreme cold. It's stronger than any human, faster than any human, and more intelligent than most people realize. In Aliens, James Cameron's 1986 sequel, the creatures demonstrate pack-hunting behavior, tactical thinking, and the ability to cut power to buildings to neutralize defensive advantages. They drag living victims back to the hive to be hosts for more eggs. Even if you escape, the psychological trauma destroys you, as shown with Ripley suffering nightmares and survivors' guilt for decades. The creature was designed by Swiss surrealist H.R. Geiger to be a fusion of sexual horror and mechanical efficiency. Every part of its design evokes violation and death. You cannot reason with it, you cannot outrun it, and even if you kill one, the acid blood will destroy your ship and leave you floating in space. Pyramid Head, the manifestation of guilt from Silent Hill. In the 2001 survival horror video game developed by Konami and the 2006 film adaptation directed by Christoph Gans, Pyramid Head appears as a hulking humanoid figure, wearing a massive triangular metal helmet and dragging an enormous blade. The creature doesn't chase victims in a traditional sense. It simply appears, existing as a physical embodiment of the protagonist's guilt and need for punishment. In Silent Hill 2, Pyramid Head represents James Sunderland's suppressed guilt over Mercy killing his terminally ill wife. The creature sexually assaults and murders other monsters in front of James, forcing him to witness physical representations of his psychological state. Pyramid Head cannot be killed because it's not truly alive. Shooting it, stabbing it, or burning it accomplishes nothing. The creature feels no pain and shows no reaction to damage. It exists until the person manifesting it confronts their guilt or dies. In the film adaptation, Pyramid Head tears the skin off a living woman in the middle of a church, demonstrating that the creature's purpose is punishment through suffering. Game director Masahiro Ito confirmed in interviews that Pyramid Head was designed to be invincible and represents a prisoner of one's own guilt. If you're in Silent Hill and Pyramid Head appears for you, it means you've done something you cannot forgive yourself for. The creature will torture you until you accept responsibility, or until it kills you. There's no fighting your own conscience made flesh. The Babadook, the entity from The Babadook. In Jennifer Kent's 2014 Australian psychological horror film, a widowed mother named Amelia and her troubled son Samuel discover a pop-up book called Mr. Babadook that appears on their shelf. The book describes a supernatural creature that never leaves once it's invited in. The Babadook manifests as a tall figure in a top hat with claw-like hands, appearing in shadows, on television screens, and eventually possessing Amelia herself. The film reveals the Babadook cannot be killed or banished. It represents grief and trauma that never fully disappears. Amelia's husband died in a car accident while driving her to the hospital to give birth to Samuel, creating a psychological association between her son and her loss. The Babadook feeds on this unresolved grief, growing stronger the more Amelia denies her feelings. Director Jennifer Kent confirmed to the New York Times that the Babadook is a metaphor for depression and trauma that cannot be destroyed, only managed. The film's ending shows Amelia keeping the Babadook locked in the basement, feeding it occasionally, representing how grief becomes something you live with rather than eliminate. If the Babadook targets you, it means you're suppressing trauma that will eventually consume you. You cannot kill your own psychological demons. You can only acknowledge them and learn to coexist with the darkness inside yourself, or let it possess you completely. Quick note, if you're enjoying what you're watching, I make content like this regularly. Subscribing would really help out. Pinhead, the Hell Priest from Hellraiser. In Clive Barker's 1987 horror film, based on his novella The Hellbound Heart, Pinhead leads the Cenobites, extra-dimensional beings who were once human, but transformed into demons, exploring the limits of sensation. The Cenobites arrive when someone solves the Lament configuration, a puzzle box that opens a gateway to their dimension. Pinhead, named for the grid of nails hammered into his skull, speaks in a cultured British accent and explains that the Cenobites don't distinguish between pleasure and pain. They view suffering as the ultimate experience and believe they're offering enlightenment through eternal torture. Once summoned, the Cenobites hook their victims with chains that tear flesh and drag them screaming into hell. In the sequels, it's revealed that escaping the Cenobites is nearly impossible. In Hellbound, Hellraiser 2, from 1988, the gateway to hell is shown as a labyrinth where victims are subjected to personalized torments for eternity. Pinhead himself was once a human named Elliot Spencer, a British soldier in World War I who solved the box seeking escape from traumatic memories. The Cenobites transformed him into their priest, demonstrating that becoming a victim means eventually becoming a torturer yourself. Actor Doug Bradley, who played Pinhead in 8 films, told Fangoria that the character represents the corruption of desire. You think you're seeking ultimate pleasure, but you're inviting ultimate suffering. The box can appear anywhere, passed from person to person, waiting for the curious or desperate to solve it. Once you open it, the Cenobites come, and your soul belongs to them forever. The Thing, the shape-shifting alien from The Thing. John Carpenter's 1982 horror masterpiece features an extraterrestrial organism discovered in Antarctica that can perfectly imitate any living creature at the cellular level. The Thing absorbs and replicates humans, animals, and potentially any organic life, creating perfect copies that retain the original's memories and personality. Once assimilated, the victim is dead, replaced by an alien intelligence wearing their face. The organism can split itself into multiple independent pieces, meaning even a few cells can eventually regenerate into a full creature. When threatened or discovered, the Thing reveals its true form, a nightmarish mass of tentacles, teeth, eyes, and limbs from multiple organisms twisted together. Rob Bottin's practical effects, which took 14 months to create, show the creature as biological chaos incarnate. The horror isn't just the monster itself, but the paranoia it creates. You cannot trust anyone. Your best friend might be the Thing. The person you just spoke to might have been replaced while you weren't looking. Blood tests can reveal infection, but the Thing learns and adapts. In the film's climactic scene, the characters destroy their base rather than risk the Thing escaping to the mainland. Carpenter confirmed in the Blu-ray commentary that if the Thing reached a populated area, humanity would be extinct within weeks. One cell reaching the ocean could assimilate marine life and spread globally. Climate scientist Dr. Sanjay Sain published a theoretical paper in the Journal of Astrobiology examining the Thing's spread rate and concluded that quarantine would be impossible. The Thing doesn't just kill you, it erases you from existence and wears your identity while hunting everyone you love. Samara Morgan, the American adaptation of Sadako from The Ring. Gore Verbinski's 2002 remake transplanted the Japanese curse to America with significant changes. Samara Morgan was a young girl with psychic abilities so powerful she could burn images onto surfaces with her mind. Her adoptive mother, driven mad by Samara's powers, threw her into a well where she survived for 7 days before dying. Her final thoughts, filled with rage and the need to be found, created the cursed videotape. The tape shows disturbing surreal images. A woman brushing her hair in a mirror, a chair moving by itself, a ladder against a wall, maggots crawling, and finally the well where Samara died. After watching, your phone rings and a distorted voice whispers, 7 days. Unlike the Japanese version, where copying the tape extends your life, the American version reveals a more disturbing truth. In The Ring 2 from 2005, Samara's ghost begins possessing people, particularly children, attempting to find a new mother. She can emerge from any reflective surface, not just televisions. Water serves as a conduit for her power, and she can manifest through puddles, ponds, or even bathtubs. Naomi Watts' character, Rachel, discovers that giving Samara what she wants, a loving mother, only makes things worse. Samara doesn't want peace or justice. She wants to spread her suffering to as many people as possible. The curse is viral, deliberately designed to infect exponentially more victims. Every person who copies the tape to save themselves condemns someone else, creating a geometric progression of death. Film critic Roger Ebert wrote that Samara represents childhood trauma weaponized into an eternal engine of revenge. Kayako Saiki, the Grudge Curse from Ju-On and The Grudge. Created by Takashi Shimizu for the 2000 Japanese original and the 2004 American remake, Kayako Saiki was murdered by her husband Takeo in a jealous rage inside their Tokyo home. Takeo broke Kayako's neck, producing the distinctive croaking death rattle that announces her presence, then drowned their son Toshio in the bathtub before hanging himself. Their violent deaths created a curse that infects anyone who enters the house. Unlike other vengeful spirits that can be appeased or laid to rest, Kayako's curse is infectious and permanent. Every person who enters the house becomes cursed, and everyone they encounter afterward can become cursed through proximity. The curse spreads like a disease, creating an exponential chain of victims. Kayako manifests as a ghost, with long black hair, dead white skin, and the ability to move in unnatural contorted positions, crawling down stairs upside down, or appearing from impossible angles. Her son Toshio appears as a pale ghost child, often accompanied by a cat's meow. The grudge curse isn't motivated by revenge against specific people. It's pure malevolent energy that kills indiscriminately. In The Grudge 2, the curse reaches America when someone brings contaminated objects from the Tokyo house. The sequels reveal that burning the house down doesn't stop the curse. The land itself remains infected. Shimizu confirmed in interviews with Midnight Eye that the curse represents a stain on reality that cannot be cleaned. Once you're marked, Kayako will find you wherever you hide. She appears in your home, in your workplace, in your car. The death rattle is your only warning, and it's already too late when you hear it. The Creeper, the ancient demon from Jeepers Creepers. Victor Salva's 2001 horror film introduces a creature that awakens every 23rd spring for 23 days to feed. The Creeper, played by Jonathan Breck, is a humanoid demon with bat-like wings, superhuman strength, and the ability to regenerate by consuming body parts from victims. The creature doesn't just kill, it hunts specific people whose organs and body parts it needs to repair itself. It can smell fear and identify which body parts are healthy enough to harvest. The creeper attacks a bus full of high school basketball players specifically because it needs young, strong, athletic organs. It rips out eyes, hearts, lungs, and limbs, incorporating them into its own body. The creature is thousands of years old, possibly dating back to pre-Columbian times, and has been hunting across North America for centuries. In Jeepers Creepers 2, from 2003, the creeper survives being harpooned, shot repeatedly, and run over by a truck. Its truck is revealed to be filled with preserved bodies and weapons collected over centuries of hunting. The license plate reads "Beaten Goo," a taunt to its victims. The creature can fly at highway speeds, track victims across miles, and heal from almost any injury by consuming flesh. The only way to survive is to hide for 23 days until it returns to hibernation, but it remembers you. The third film, released in 2017, shows the creeper marking certain victims to hunt in future cycles. If it decides it wants your eyes or your heart, it will wait 23 years and come back for you. The creeper isn't hunting for food or territory, it's shopping for spare parts and your inventory. If you liked what you saw, think about subscribing to stay updated with every upload. Thanks for watching.